It is now time to talk briefly about the 2020 election, which starts today. I have said for basically for 2 years now, when people call, when people say, David, start talking about who you want to see run in 2020. What do you think will happen between the 2018 midterms and 2020? I've been hesitant because I wanted to keep my eye on the most immediate project, which was the 2018 midterms. Those are now behind us, although we still don't know the exact results from all races. And the reality is that 2020 is starting earlier than ever, and it starts today effectively. Not in the literal sense, but this is a long process, and it's a process that, because of the specifics of what is going on right now with the Trump administration, with what is understandably and positively a huge insurgence, a huge rise in the number of people participating in politics, there is a clamoring to start sorting out 2020 now. And one of the analogies that I think really applies here is that you can destroy things way more quickly than you can build them. And what I mean by that is, think about a building, for example. Imagine putting together a building. You've got to make the plans and find the location, permitting, excavation, pouring the foundation, building up exterior walls, electrical and plumbing and internal walls. And then when you say it's time to knock it down, some dynamite or a few wrecking balls can be brought in. And in a couple of hours, you've undone what could have taken, in some cases, years to build. And it's the exact same thing that we have seen with our politics under Donald Trump. Political alliances around the world that were built on decade upon decade of diplomacy and geopolitical understanding have been destroyed very, very quickly. Donald Trump's tariffs, which he created on a whim in the sense that he started to realize he was getting a reaction from people on the campaign trail that was positive, putting in place these tariffs that cause retaliatory tariffs, shake up the entire sort of status quo of the economic relationships of the United States with other countries. There's no undoing that now by the same flip of a switch. We need negotiations. We need meetings. We need cooperation agreements with other countries. It is going to take a long time, if at all, under the Trump administration, and it may not happen until later, to undo the damage that he so quickly did with those tariffs. So we do have to start talking about 2020 now. And I'm not doing horse race stuff. I'm not actually saying I'm now pretending that we are in full 2020 election mode, but there are a few important things I want to mention. Number one, I believe that Bernie Sanders is going to run for president on the Democratic side. I don't want to say more than should be said about it right now, but there are people I have spoken to personally who are in positions where they can reliably talk about this issue. And there is a significant group of these individuals who are placed in a way that they could say it with some certitude that Bernie Sanders is going to be running for the Democratic nomination for president in 2020. How that relates to whether other progressives rather than just Democrats run is something that needs to be thought of already. Bernie Sanders runs and Elizabeth Warren runs. What happens is that what are the dynamics of that in the context of, as the two most progressive members of the Senate, comparing and contrasting them to a more sort of establishment centrist figure? That's going to become an issue, from what I am told, pretty soon, pretty early in 2019. That is going to be a thing that we are going to be talking about and discussing. In 2020, either Donald Trump will be running for re-election, in which case the goal is that we have 2 years now to weaken him as much as possible. Taking over the House of Representatives is a good first step in achieving that. As long as, and this is the risk, Democrats cannot allow themselves to be framed as obstructionists for the next 2 years. Because if Donald Trump is not able to get anything done during the next 2 years and has to explain that to his base, maybe he won't even have to explain it. But if he did, Democrats are going to get blamed for obstructing because, after all, Democrats now control the House. Now, of course, this ignores so many political realities, including that even Republicans couldn't get on the same page on so many issues during the first 2 years of Donald Trump's first term that they internally were responsible for the lack of passage of, I mean, look, the Obamacare repeal didn't fail because of Democratic obstructionism. Even Republicans couldn't get on the same page about how it is that they wanted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. So we've got to prepare, and I hope that the Democrats are doing this already. Everything we prevent them from doing, we will be blamed for obstructing, and we've got to have a way to deal with that. The other issue that's really important for 2020, you've got the presidential race, is that the 2020 Senate election is going to have another roughly third of the Senate up for re-election. 33 seats are going to be up, plus a special election to fill John McCain's seat. So this year, we had 35 seats available in the Senate via elections. There are going to be 33 plus McCain's seat in 2020. The numbers are way better for Democrats in 2020 than they were in 2018. This year, as I mentioned, Republicans had these 42 senators that weren't up for re-election. So Republicans could have lost every single race that they were running in 2018 in the Senate and still had 42 seats. Of course, they didn't do that, and they're going to end up gaining anywhere from 2 to 4 seats is what it looks like as of right now. And that's not all, it hasn't all been settled right now. In 2020, my numbers might be slightly off, but you have incumbent Democrats defending only 12 seats, and Republicans will have 21 seats, plus that Arizona special election for John McCain's seat. So there are going to be much better numbers for Democrats in the Senate in 2020. You're going to have potentially 22 total Republican seats up for grabs, while Democrats will have to defend only 12. So right away, even if we had, in our disappointment about the blue wave not being as big as we wanted it to be, if we can achieve the same sort of proportional results in the Senate in 2020 that we achieved in 2018, 2020 rather, could be absolutely massive for Democrats in the Senate. Now, the big question that is going to dictate how a lot of this stuff goes and how a lot of these Senate races shape up in practice and sort of their flavor and tone and tenor is going to be who does run for the Democrats in 2020. On the one hand, there are a lot of, in addition to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, there are a lot of really interesting possibilities. And this includes everything from, and I'm not saying I like this, but it includes everything from celebrities up through to and including lower level elected officials who are very progressive. You've got the Castros from Texas. You have people talking about Beto O'Rourke. You've got Kamala Harris's name being thrown around. I'm not saying I like or dislike any of these individuals. There's going to be plenty of time for that. But the idea is that with this much time to think about it, and with such an atrocious person in the Oval Office, Democrats should be able to do some serious damage in 2020 if they actually take the right approach. And we're going to be analyzing in depth exactly what that approach would be. Now, for people who are going to write to me and say, David, 2020? No. It is just way too early to be talking about 2020. We can wait. That's fine. But Trump 2020 starts today. He filed for re-election within days of being inaugurated back in 2017. Trump yesterday had his 2016 campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, with him as they took in the midterm election results. Brad Parscale, who's going to be running Trump's 2020 campaign, was also with him last night. They are starting now. They get it. We need to get it. And in fact, Brian Walsh, who's the president of the pro-Trump America First Action Super PAC, said yesterday, the re-elect begins today. It's all in and all on the line. Their policies are horrible. Their moral compasses don't work. They are liars. They are projectors who do the opposite of everything they say they're going to do and say the others won't. But they get that it starts today. The Trump administration departures, I would expect to happen soon, maybe even before the new House and Senate are sworn in January. They are building their sort of final lineup for 2020, other than people who are going to resign, obviously. They are going to have that in place within the next 5 to 6 months. So I am asking you now to commit to this 2-year project. Build the lead in that, build the control of the House. Take control of the Senate. The numbers are in our favor, but we've got to do it. And take over the White House from President Trump. It is difficult to knock out incumbent presidents, even relatively unpopular ones, as we saw in 2004 with George W. Bush. Let's all commit to this. Let's all commit to voting as well. And in that spirit, we want to continue to build the David Pakman Show and continue these 2 years. So we did the minimum we had to do. We took the House back. Okay. Now that opens up some doors for Democrats for the next 2 years. Now is when it is all in, because it's not just a Senate stacked against us, which we probably can't win, and we can take over the House. We're talking about the Senate. We're talking about the presidency. We're talking about trying to get to 50% when it comes to governorships. So we have launched a new coupon code. It is This Is 2020, all one word. This is 2020. That saves you 40% off of a membership at davidpakman.com/membership or www.joinpakman.com. It supports the work that we are doing, and we have major plans, probably too ambitious plans. We're never able to do everything we plan on, but with your support, we can at least do a bunch of it. Let's continue to build. These next 2 years are, I am feeling as invigorated as I've ever been for an election cycle going into 2020, and it has begun, and I want to hear from you about it. I am thrilled to tell you that one of today's sponsors is simplehabit.com/Pakman, where you can go and get a 7-day totally free trial of an app that I use personally and love. I've talked to you before about the benefits of meditation, just simply sitting there, observing what it is that your mind wants to do has been a great thing for me. We have so much evidence growing all the time that this is just a good thing for people to do. And one of the best tools you'll be able to find anywhere online for guiding you through meditation is Simple Habit. It just won the 2018 Google Play Award for Best Well-Being App, a very well-deserved award. They have guided meditations by some of the most respected mindfulness experts from the East and West. You can choose from a huge selection of 5-minute meditations, each designed specifically for where you are or what you're doing or the mood that you're in. They have meditations for falling asleep, for when you're waking up, for your daily commute, when you've just gotten home from work. There are meditations specially crafted to help people deal with anxiety or to get focused before doing something difficult. And Simple Habit lets you keep track of your progress by giving you feedback about how much you're meditating, how many days in a row you've been meditating. It's a really comprehensive and well put together app. Go check it out. You can try it free for 7 days at simplehabit.com/Pakman. I've put a link underneath this video.